All right, here's Frank's topic/rant. As is means as is. Asking for anything after the acceptance will guarantee an escrow delay. And by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Stupid Agent, it's your fault.
I didn't put that part.
So, as basically, if you're buying a home and it's a bank-owned property foreclosure short sale and it says as is, don't put in the contract, we'll buy it if you fix something.
I'm
right?
trying to see how you're going to make this last 9 minutes. So hit it.
Frank.
I can make this last about 20 minutes.
No. 9 is fine.
Okay.
Omitting names.
As is means as is.
Okay, now asking for something after the fact usually comes when the buyer has their professional home inspection, and the professional home inspector, and I've talked about this before, their job is to scare the bejesus out of you, basically. But that's okay, because usually a buyer who's going to move forward after that is a motivated, conscious buyer. They know all the ins and outs as much as possible of this property.
Right.
But the only repair ever, buyers, please understand this, no matter what your agent says, no matter what anybody says, the only repairs that the seller is ever going to make is a lender-mandated, required repair.
Safety and
usually
health
and safety. And usually those health and safety items have likely been taken care of before the property's even gone to market.
Well, and most of
the
those,
time.
just so you know, substandard dwelling, health, all of those things are in the preliminary title report, which is kind of the map for the transaction. So the seller has to be aware of them. The city has recorded something. The health department has recorded something. The county has recorded something. So they're not mystery. They're public.
Yeah. Now, there may be items, for example, if there is peeling paint on the exterior of the property along the window trim, seals, or eaves, the seller may not have made repairs to that because they know that that's something 50-50. The appraiser, when they come out to inspect the property for the value, may or may not say something about. But more than likely, the seller knows and is prepared to deal with it. But when the buyer goes in and the professional home inspector says, oh, well, this roof sure looks like it could use a change in pretty soon, or this water heater is about 7-8 years old, and usually they only last this long or whatever, and you'll hear the word serviceable a lot, meaning that
I had a girlfriend like that once.
Hey, what are we, 17 minutes in? But
and we're veering off radically.
And especially if there are items in there that, because there's let's say cracked countertops and things like that, those are all preferences or buyer desired repairs, not lender required mandated repairs.
Okay, so let me turn this away from Mr. and Mrs. Realtor and into hey, we got to call in Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. What do they need to do?
Mr. and Mrs. Buyer need to understand that unless the appraiser goes out and hopefully the value comes in, unless the appraiser says that we've got a peeling paint issue and based on our FHA guidelines, blah, 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 this peeling paint is a mandatory required repair before funding and closure of this loan can take place, the seller's not going to lift a finger. Right. Unless that appraiser calls it out and says this is a condition to fund, then the seller's not going to lift a finger.
That is really the easiest way for the buyer. If it isn't a written condition to get your loan, the seller ain't doing crap.
The seller's not doing anything.
Bottom line.
Now, you can ask for it.
Right.
You have that right.
But you know it's going to delay the process.
But understand that
say no.
The seller's no really is a no. So here's the thing. You have your home inspection. You send in your request for repair. Okay? That request for repair goes to an asset manager who turns around and sends it to the actual seller. It could be an investor group. It could be the actual bank. We're talking 48 hours. We're talking 2-3 days before they get to it. And then they come back and tell you no, like you should expect.
For the most part.
So now we've burned 2, 3, 4, or 5 days. Who knows how many days we've burned.
So if you are the buyer and you are looking at houses and you say, I think I want to buy this house, and that house is as is, realize that and don't put an offer in on it if you think you're going to ask for cosmetic repairs.
And a lot of buyers just figure, well, I'll get them under contract, and they won't want to cancel. They won't want to start all over again.
I'll be able to do it.
I'll get them up against the wall. It doesn't usually happen like that.
Because you've got 20 backup offers.
Pretty much.
And you went in knowing there's lots of listings that are not as is.
Yeah.
Okay, that you could negotiate.
Yeah, go pick one that's not
pick
as
one
is, right?
That in the comments on the MLS, it doesn't say as is.
And even if you're substantially over list price, just assume that they would say no.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's the thing: if you don't care that you could burn 4 or 5, 6 days and have to get an extension, maybe your loan lock's going to expire, and who knows what.
Yeah.
If you don't care about all those things, or maybe you're locked in for lengthier than a 30-day escrow, go ahead and ask for it. Just know it's going to cause a delay, and in the end, if you go past your close date, more than likely all the fingers come back to you.
But we know that in 90% of the cases, it's going to be a no anyway, so you're wasting time.
It really does become that. You know how people say it never hurts to ask?
Yeah.
Well,
it
does
doesn't
hurt to ask,
but it's not going to happen.
Right.
Assume it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way.
Assume it's not going to
I had a girlfriend
happen.
like that once, too.
Assume it's not going to happen.
It's okay to ask, but it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, and if you're like I said, and if you, let's say you do have this rate and term with your lender, and let's say that escrow is supposed to be 30 days, and your loan lock was going to expire in 32, and you feel like that's okay because I'm going to close it 2 days before my lock expires. Just remember that request for repairs, you just added on 3, 4, 5 more days right there.
And if you are a professional in the industry, a realtor, real estate agent, and it says as is in the comments, don't explain it to your buyers, and don't submit paperwork asking for things to be fixed, because you're just screwing things up.
Well, you can talk to your buyer about that. They may want to do it anyways, but good agents, please go back and tell your buyers what to expect and the delay it could cause.
Right.
Let them know ahead of time.
All right.
I know the agent's always going to say, I'm just doing my fiduciary duty to the buyer. Well, your other duty
you got to talk to them.
Your other duty is to allow the buyer to understand the loss of time also that comes along with it, more than likely with the end result that's going to be.
Yeah, the probability is almost zero.
Yeah, there you go. So good advice, sound advice for both buyers and real estate agents who don't listen.